Kate Kanta Dhanagata Chinta Vatula Kim Tava Nasti Niyanta Trijagati Sajjana Sanghati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnava Tarane Nauka Kate Kanta Dhanagata Chinta Vatula Kim Tava Nasti Niyanta Trijagati Sajjana Sanghati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnava Tarane Nauka. Now the verse is titled Surrender Your Worries. So let's do that. Oh distracted one, Vatula, oh distracted one, why worry over your wife and wealth? Kanta, Dhanagata. The Dhanam is wealth. Kanta refers to the wife. Is there not for you the ordainer? Vatula kim tava nasti niyanta? Na asti niyanta? Niyanta is the ordainer. Is there no God up there? Is there no ordainer who would oversee and look into your welfare and well-being? Are you doubting that providence? In the three worlds, Trijagati Sajjana, Sanghati Reka, the association with the good, the satsang, alone can serve as a boat to cross that sea of existence. Bhavati Bhavarnava, Tarane Nauka, to cross that sea of existence. It's a beautiful verse, provided you can attune to it, you can relate to it. I'll try my best to do justice. It's always been a primary objective when you take to convey a message. It is very, very important that you try to do justice what scriptures are saying. It is the most easiest thing to do is to liquidate it, dilute it, adulterate it. But to give it out in the purest and the pristine form what it was given, as close as you can to get, it's impossible because you have to reach that level of the great Guru himself. But the attempt is to get as close as possible. It's impossible to know what exactly it meant because we're not hearing from the horse's mouth. All right. So as the verse said, surrender your worries. Now, what is the worry? The theme of the text is being covered here. The theme of the text is Kanchana and Kamini. Kanchana is wealth. Everybody is running behind the wealth of the world, which is symbolizing acquisition. The second is wife, which is symbolized as enjoyment, which is Kamini, which is woman. So we've learned this in the very first, in the beginning of the text, because that's the theme of the text. The whole text is covering it. As the chorus verse, he says, BHAJAGOVINDAM, BHAJAGOVINDAM, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. O fool, seek the truth, seek Govinda. Samprapte sannihite kale. When the appointed time comes, none of this secular, mundane, worldly pursuits are going to help you or save you. They're not going to come as a respite. They'll not give you any peace, comfort, and solace. Not at that point, right throughout the pursuit. Any pursuit of material wealth, any pursuit, in fact, any extroverted pursuit. The extroverted pursuit is known as the pursuit of acquisition, enjoyment. And as long as you lead such a life, you will find yourself, life will be riddled with worries and anxieties. If you are worried, if you're riddled with worries and anxieties, it's because of your extrovertedness. And the verse is appealing to us. Why? What is the worry over your wife? What is the worry over your wealth, man? Why are you so concerned of your own little well-being? Isn't there the ordainer? Vatula kim tava nasti niyanta. Now, it's very important that you understand this. Now, this context, this phrase, you can take a very devotional approach or an intellectual approach. It's just how you decode, how you understand what that statement means, because that's the crux of the whole thing. Is there no God who ordains you? So a devotional man, what's an attitude of a devotional person? A devotional person would actually surrender to the Lord. His attitude of the attitude of a bhakta is just to take whatever comes in his life as a sheer prasad, isn't it? He says, whatever comes, I'll accept it. It could be a profit, it could be a loss, it could be name, it could be defame, it could be health, it could be ill health, it could be birth, it could be death. It's all the prasad of the Lord. I don't understand why things happen the way things are. I don't have the capacity to fathom the totality of life. But I am, in fact, I say I'm a mere instrument of the Lord. I'm the mere sevak. I do what I have to, little I have to do. I will not worry of anything. Let me not worry of things. Whatever happens, there's a reason. I don't understand the reason, but I will surrender. It is all His grace. It's all His love, all His concern. I am no different from any other creation. I am the part of the creation. So I will not want to worry. Why? Let Him decide. When you take a devotional approach doesn't have the rationality to fathom or make sense of why things are happening, what things are happening, what governs life, why is life the way it is. He doesn't have the intellectual capacity, but he just surrenders to the Lord, to a greater force, to a charm which he believes governs and controls everything. Now, it is very, very, very important to have emotion. Even though we are in a classroom, even though we are on a path of intellection, life without feeling an emotion is like a piece of wood or stone. You've got to feel. So there has to be that element of devotion. And there is that element of devotion in each one of us. And how do I say that? How do I say that there's an element of devotion in each one of you? Or emotion in each one of you? Srinivasji, how do we say that? Srinivas Kumar. Reddy Garu. I will call you Reddy Garu in today's class because there are two Srinivasas here. So first is Srinivasji, then Reddy Garu.
How do you say the question? Good morning, Guruji. The
Yes,
question is how can you repeat the question? It's about why do you think the humans have emotions? Is that the question?
No, the question I'm asking is, even though we are so much emphasizing on knowledge and wisdom, why is it important to have emotion? And every human has an element of emotion or devotion. And when I explain that, I'm only trying to tap or trigger that latent potential that is there. So the question is perhaps twofold. Why is it important? Secondly, how do we say that you have this emotion? Perhaps you can answer the second half first and then go to the prior later.
I'm not so sure how I'd answer. I don't know why you have emotions. I know the reason why you need emotions, or whether you need EQ or whether it's empathy, whichever the word you use. But if you ask the root of why does the human mind or the human have emotions, I'm not so sure I would have the answer.
So you don't have an answer for the simpler question. You have an answer for a difficult one. Okay, never mind. Go ahead. If that's what you say, I'll take it. Sir, a human being is constituted of the basic constitution of human. Can you attempt that? What's the basic constitution?
Well, it's outside the physicality, if you take the physicality out, then you have buddhi, which is, right?
Yes.
And then you have the mind, where the mind can oscillate between rational and emotional, in my opinion.
No. In fact,
No?
No. See, you're almost there. In fact, as you said, the physicality, there's the physical personality, there's the physical body. And you rightly said there is the rational personality, which is the buddhi, the intellect. And then there's the manas, the mind, which is the non-rational. It is a seat of emotions. It is also, it houses all your impulses. The mind also is the warehouse of all where your desires are kept. So you have an emotional personality. You do feel, and you ought to feel, is because you have an emotion. You have the mind. It is the mind that makes you feel emotions. But what is the difference in all of us? All of us have got this physical, mental, intellectual personality. And if you have to extend it further, we also have the subtle intellect. In intellect, there is also the spiritual personality. And the spiritual personality is determined by the proportion of your subtle intellect. So if you want to put it in one bracket, physical, mental, intellectual, spiritual. And what differentiates all of us is the proportion of these personalities. And if you have to grow spiritually, it is essential, not only important, it's essential to integrate every aspect of your personality into action. You got to integrate everything. You got to bring every aspect of your personality. You need to inject emotion, you need to inject intellection, you need to inject action in order to attune to the spiritual personality. The spiritual personality, when I say subtle intellect, it is the conscience. The conscience, you want to tune to that. So when your physical, mental, intellectual personalities are aligned to your conscience, then you are spiritual. When they're not aligned, you're materialistic and sensual. You're worldly. So just to bring it back to the context, why do you have emotion? Is because it emanates from the emotional aspect of your personality. So you need to relate to different situations with knowledge and with emotion. And that's what we're trying to do with reference to this verse. So an emotional person doesn't understand, he doesn't rationalize with things, why things are the way they are in my life. And he doesn't choose to worry about them. He just surrenders, whatever you say. It's like a child doesn't have the reason or the capacity to understand and rationalize what their parents are doing. But he has the basic faith that whatever my parents do, they are doing in the interest of my well-being. Until the child has the capacity to question and reason and ask for answers, till then he just blindly follows you, isn't it? There has that basic faith. In that same way, one who surrenders to the Lord, so then you don't take the worries on yourself. So that's the first half of the question. So what is the second half of the question? You remember or forgotten? From the expression, I know you're forgotten. So, that's the reason I request all of you to put on your camera, and I'm happy all of you are, at least you are on, and then we can connect. Okay, let's surrender to Reddy Garu. What's the second half of the question, sir? Unless you have anything to say to the earlier question.
I'm sorry, sir. I lost it.
You lost it. So I have got the knack of confusing you all. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Reddy Garu, please hold on. RPG. You were wondering, why did I put on my camera? Huh?
No, I know I have to put on my camera. Hari Om Guruji.
Yes, sir.
I also got caught up in your explanation, so I forgot the second part, so my apologies.
No, no. In fact, the truth is, I've also lost. I've also forgotten. So I hope somebody's going to tell me. Is there anybody out there who knows what the question is? Vijayji? Only hope, sir.
That puts a lot of responsibility on me. Namaskar.
No,
I think it was about why do we or what are emotions, human beings?
So your dear friend is nodding his head profusely. Yeah? Harishji.
I mean, to the extent I could remember. I also got carried away with the discussions, subsequent
Right.
discussions.
Okay. Let's ask Vaidyanathanji.
The first part was, why do we have emotion? The second part was, how do you know you have bhakti?
How do we know we have bhakti?
Bhakti or
seems to-
devotion.
Uh-huh.
That's what I remember as the two parts of the question.
Maybe slightly modified, sir. I appreciate that. Sethuramanji.
Why is it important to have devotion?
Correct. The question was, what is emotion? And why is it important to have emotion in one's spiritual growth or in any transaction of life for that matter? Why is it important to have emotion? Because I did mention a man without feeling an emotion, you're like a piece of wood or stone, you're dead. But that doesn't convey much why you need to have emotion, isn't it? Why is it important? Just think, Ima. You're right. Reddy Garu.
So in my view, the emotion plays a pivotal role because we're talking about the body, mind, intellect, which shapes the human being. And the mind is a pivot point to drive through the body and intellect. Without mind, there is none of this body and intellect can be operational. So mind is nothing but we talk about emotions, which originates from the mind. So it's a very crucial and important for us to have the emotions.
Right. No, you're very true from a layman's perspective. All right. Now, can you connect this concept of why you need emotion in understanding the context of the verse where he says the title is Surrender Your Worries? And it plays a pivotal role, an essential role in helping you to surrender your worries. So in context to the verse, how do you think emotion or devotion will help you in surrendering your worries?
It guides you, it gives the directions, it gives a focus towards the devotion. So where in which we can able to forget the worries.
Yeah, but question is how? How does it help you? Why is it important to have that emotion or devotion?
Because this emotion will bring some amount of clarity and some amount of, I can say, fearlessness. Because, so, no.
How, sir, when I am not able to rationalize things in life, how can I have clarity?
Because of the faith.
This is what I'm asking. This is what I'm trying to see. My questioning is to help you all think in the line of thought. As I said, so I said, My job is to bring out the essence, what the verse is conveying. And I said that statement can be took from a devotional angle, intellectual angle. So emotion is a part of your personality. There is a certain constitution of it. And you need to draw it to help you in your life, either from a worldly perspective or a spiritual perspective. Now, as you said, you have emotion, you need to tap emotion so that you develop a certain amount of faith, certain amount of acceptance of a certain factor, a greater factor, which you do not know. So the emotion comes in, emotion kicks in, or emotion overwhelms and overrides or takes over your personality when our little intellect cannot fathom things, why things are happening. And if there is no intellect, if there's nothing else to back or fall on without the intellect, you are nothing. I'm gone. Because I only have physical body, mind or intellect. And mind and intellect is the vehicle, is the engine that drives my personality. If I only operate on intellect and knowledge and this notion of knowing everything, how do you explain things, why things are happening in the world out at large and in things in life, why things are happening? You don't understand. Do we understand everything?
No.
I don't understand. I don't fathom. And you don't have answers for everything. You're not able to connect two factors in life, two aspects in life. Then how do you go along with life? You have to come to an acceptance that there is a Lord up there who governs and ordains everything. And I'm a part of his governance, and I'm not, and he's not who is partial. So I'm not being subjected to anything unfair. It's all fair and just in the law that governs life, and I'm a part of his creation. So I surrender to that unknown law. You may call it as God. God is an unknown term. There's someone who is overseeing everything. So surrender. Now, you know, when does surrender happen? When do you actually surrender? The title, again, I'm falling back to the title, surrender your worries. When do you actually surrender? Vanita ma?
After you put in your effort, you have to do what you're supposed to do, and then you surrender to God.
Yes. You do what you have to do in life and then you surrender. But anything more you can qualify it?
Is it typically when it's a hopeless situation?
When you're, I would rather use the word helpless than hopeless. It's a very demoralizing state to be hopeless, isn't it? I'm helpless. I don't know how to move forward in life. I don't know how to manage my accounts. I do not know how to manage there's some cracks suddenly start appearing all over the house, or in certain section of the house, there's suddenly cracks, and the cracks are becoming more evident. Suddenly concern, is there anything wrong structurally? So you quickly call your architect friend of yours and say, hey, I just want you to come and have a look at it. Why? Why are you surrendering to the architect?
Because he has knowledge about it, which you're ignorant about that.
I am ignorant. I do not know. He knows. I surrender to him, isn't it? Now, what is the prima facie understanding we all must have with reference to the subject matter of life? Straightforward answer, simple answer, which you already said.
Ignorance.
Three-word answer, I don't know. Since I do not know, I cannot claim to have arrogance of knowing of all what life is. Do we? Do I? Do you? No. Then what do we do? Therefore, we have to have this attitude of surrender rather than worrying about your own personal acquisition, enjoyment, kanchana kamani, again, all what you are running behind life. Don't worry about it. God will take care of you. God has taken care of everything. He will take care of your needs also. You don't worry about it, man. So it's a devotional approach. Don't rationalize with it. How is it? Why is it? Don't rationalize with it. You just have to understand. He'll take care. So surrender happens in areas of ignorance, and you do not have answers to everything in life, and your intellect may not understand. Our chicken intellect can't understand. Therefore, what do? We have to accept, have faith. There is that providence who will take care of it. This is only one side of the interpretation, which is the devotional angle. Okay, are you all okay? Sriniji, all fine? So to answer the question, why do we need emotions? You need emotion when your intellect becomes incapacitated to fathom things. Arbiji, are we technically sound to say that? When your intellect becomes incapacitated to function because there are areas beyond your capacity, that's where you fall back on emotion. That's where you fall back on devotion. That's where you fall back on surrender. Now, is there not the ordainer? How do you intellectualize it? How do you understand intellectually that which governs life? What is it that governs life? Devotionally, you don't have to worry. You just say, God will take care. He who knew what it needed better than a man like me. How do I have to sit and decide what the sapling needs? I've just gone and planted the little seed, created little soil, and I planted it. Let nature take its course. It might take a week, it might take a month for it to sprout. And when it sprouts, whether it needs what, I will do my little bit of watering once in a day or once in 2 days. But thereafter, nature takes its course, isn't it? How am I to start worrying whether it needs frost, whether it needs sunshine, whether it needs, I don't know what it needs. It'll sprout, it'll happen. So he knows what it needs better than a man like me. He's a creator. He will take care of his creation. I don't have to worry. That kind of a faith or a belief in a system which functions meticulously. That's the devotion. Now, intellection, how do you understand? RPG.
Guruji, is it a sense that everything functions cause and effect? So intellectually that we yes, there's faith, but you see that, you know, by looking out in nature and seeing there's a very specific reason and rhyme to things, cause and effect.
So everything in life functions on the principle of causation, isn't it? A cause and effect. Now, are we able to justify the destiny, which is your current moment? Destiny always refers to the present, as you know. So if you were to rationalize your present, are you able to accept it purely on the law of karma or the law of causation?
No, I think that's where it's a combination, right? In terms of there's the element of causation. Okay, I got here because of something, but then there's also, I think it's a blend of faith in that as well. So it's not, again, going back to the prior conversation, it's not just faith alone. It's not just now bringing in this other actor, causation, but it's subtly a mix of both. You can't have one without the other.
You cannot have one without the other. But just to separate the two, we need to understand to what extent this vehicle can take us. The vehicle of intellection. You need to engage the vehicle of intellection. You need to fall back on the vehicle of devotion when this gives up, isn't it? It's like one power dies away, you fall back on other sorts of power to drive you forward, isn't it? But when there is this lopsidedness, you shatter. Then comes in arrogance, then comes in notion that I know what I'm doing, and then you get into self-inflicted worries and anxiety, self-created. So the conversation is only trying to reassure that how do you ensure your life goes on. At every stage, you do your little part, because our part, however significant it is just a minuscule in the totality of things, isn't it? Even for this class to happen smoothly, can you mention the things that needs to be done or things has to happen for it to just carry on the way it's going on? Vijayji?
Guruji, I mean, as I see it, it's a classic conflict which always happens between intellectualism and faith on which the religion is based. Now, so long as I mean, there are so many things are constantly being discovered through intellect or science, but still, as the years roll by, we keep discovering new things all the time. But till such time, I'm very conscious that there's going to be many more things to be understood. And why all these things started itself is never understood so far. Only we understand how things work, cause and effects in many of the things. So long as I know that the exercise in intellect is not to understand everything. Okay, there's something beyond all this. That automatically brings faith.
Yes.
I mean, I don't have to test my intellect and stretch it beyond a point, but then satisfy myself that, I need to be humble. I think it's pretty evident to begin with. So they need not be conflicting.
No. In fact, when you know that your intellect cannot fathom, that's when you become humble. If you do not stretch, you will not know what your limitations are, isn't it? How small you are, isn't it?
True. That still gives me a freedom to stretch my intellect all the time without thinking that I'm God.
No, we are not trying to proclaim ourselves to be anything other than what we are. We are trying to understand and fathom so that we use this vehicle as a tool to attain godhood, to attain salvation, to attain the moksha. So it's a vehicle. We're only trying to say the vehicle has to be kept in good repair so it serves you the journey. Now the problems we all are faced with is worries and anxieties. So the verse is giving us a solution. How you can engage both your aspect of emotion, devotion, surrender, faith, and acceptance of the law which governs the irresistible law, impeccable law. The law can never go wrong, which is the law of cause and effect. Which says you are getting what you deserve. Don't complain. If you have the eyes to see, you will see it. If you have the capacity to unfold and account for each action, every action has an effect. Like a banking transaction, like your accountant, you submit your yearly accounts to the accountant, to your firm, they will split every transaction and say, this is this, this is this, this. They give you everything on a blank sheet of paper. They'll say cause and effect, this is what it is. And this is your end transaction. Life is as crystal clear, as accountable as that. But my intellect may not grasp all that. We are not able to accept and take all our actions which we have performed. We don't realize that every action of ours, now please mark this, we don't realize every action of ours, whether you're conscious or unconscious, is accountable. We question why me. Why should I go through this? Why am I? When you ask such questions, is because you don't understand the actions you perform, which you may be unaware of. But the law of karma, of cause and effect, is functioning meticulously. So religion is trying to, you started off with that, Vijayji, that emotion, there's never a conflict. In fact, it is a beautiful supplement. One supplements the other. Nowadays, there's this new technology in automobile, isn't it? That what you call this, maybe now it's all 100% electric. But you have, before electric, you had this hybrid cars, isn't it? Where every time you brake, or there's a certain system which create or save the energy, and then able to get greater performance. So when it doesn't take fuel, it takes from the battery hybrid, so there's that kind of technology. So I'm just trying to think in a very layman's perspective, from modern perspective, how you need to have one, you need essential. Now, why am I saying that is not happening? You're not doing justice to your inherent proportion. Do you know that you have a proportion of intellect and heart in you? Ask yourself, if I'm a mirror to your inner personality, do you know what is your proportion of intellect? Do you know what is the proportion of heart, of the head and heart? Sriniji?
I think it varies situationally. I don't think you will know the proportion of the heart and head. I think it changes as per the situation, as per what you're going through in life.
What makes you say?
Moment.
What makes you say it's situation based? I can be over emotional at times, or I could be over rational at times, but that's not my true nature. I sometimes be overwhelmed with emotion, or I can be sometimes doing hair splitting analysis and overdoing things. Like sometimes you will be too calculative of things, and your spouse or near and they will say, "Hey, penny wise, pound foolish man. Come on, what are you thinking about these petty things? Drop and get it done. Subscribe for it, get it." Calculating this, that, this. You're trying to book a air ticket or a holiday, and you're doing this. I can say, "You're a mad fellow. You will go and spend unnecessary things there, and then you're trying to hair split things." Don't be over rational. Just do it, man. You see that? You may be over rationalizing at things, or you may be over emotionally attached to things, but that is not your true personality. So I'm sorry, I had to butt in there and clarify. It is not situation based. You need to know, you need to sit calm, you need to sit and understand what is my constitution. And the real lack of spiritual growth is because there is no awareness of a scientific approach to spirituality is missing. People don't understand that spirituality is to satisfy one's individual needs of physical, mental, intellectual. This is not thought. So it is just, you just are overwhelmed with situations. If some bhakti group is coming, you will go and sit and sing and dance with them. If an intellectual guru comes, you'll go and sit and rationalize with them. But there's no real understanding. What is my need? What is my personality? And this is not something which, in fact, this doesn't change your whole course of life, sir. It remains what you are. That is your swadharma. Whatever personality I am, certain percent of physical, certain percent of emotional, certain percent intellectual, let's say 30, 30, 40. If this is my constitution, this remains to the course of my life. It doesn't change. So it becomes very, very important to know who I am, what I am, so that you can fit into your requirements and bring in the best. If I'm 40% emotional, I can't be operating, I will not operate at 80%. I can be emotional at times, but that is not my true nature. You see? You see what I'm trying to convey here? And each one is different. And that's the difference in all of us. All of us have got a body, mind, intellect, but it's a proportion. So you need to know what your proportion is. How many of you can throw up arms and say, "Sir, I know exactly what I am"? And you will be true to yourself when you bring that personality of yours to the core, to the forefront. Whatever is there to the core, you bring it to the forefront. And that's when you are in true sync and harmony with yourself. Forget the world out there, sir. Everything, sir, in our body, I don't know how many organs are there. And if life has to go on, if I don't feel any presence of mine, so do you feel the presence of your spine? Do you feel the presence of your hamstring? Do you feel the presence of your liver or your heart or your kidney or pancreas right now? Any of them, Sriniji?
No, unless it's in pain.
Unless it's in pain. But the fact that you don't feel it is because everything is beautifully functioning in sync, in harmony with everything, isn't it? Every breath of oxygen I breathe goes where it needs to go, goes into my lungs. It refreshes, gives life. It helps me to vitalize everything, every perception, every emotion, every thought. Everything is so beautifully integrated. Any one of them goes little malfunctioning. Even my blood pressure goes high. My blood sugar goes low. Out, I'm flat. Next moment, I'll be drop dead. You know the serious implications of that, isn't it? Everything has to so beautifully in sync to just be normal. If our mere physical body takes so much to be a functional, how can the very engine of our personality, the mind and intellect, when they are not tuned in, what will happen? It's a total chaos. And the effect of that is you're completely, there's a traffic jam of thoughts and ideas, worries and anxieties, stress and strain, total chaos. We don't understand what's happening with life. So I'm trying to bring us back to the fundamentals. How you need to know that there are these two elements and you need to understand what you are and understand that one relies on the other. It is never a conflict. It is one compensating, complementing the other. When head fails, heart comes in. When heart gives up, head must take over. But never at the cost of the other. It is both. It's never either or. It is both. Has to play a part in every action that you do. In every action. That is when it's complete and wholesome. Does it resonate, Sriniji?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But you'll have to embark on this little exercise of analysis of your own personality. A self-analysis is paramount, because only through self-analysis you would know what is your emotional quotient and what is your intellectual quotient. Sadly, we are not told all this. We are not taught all this. We are not informed all this. So we never used our equipments. We have never used what we are provided with to the best. I'm not talking from a spiritual perspective. I'm talking about day in and day out. In our worldly transactions, in every experience. Harish ji is giving a side commentary is going on. As I'm lecturing, he's also giving side. So let's surrender to Harish ji. Sir, you have to please share your wisdom of that incident 40 years ago to begin with.
Guruji, it's very humbling to have to say something when the level of intellectual discourse is so much higher than where I am because of you. But in any case, the incident that I put down is a person whom I have known, Rajiv has known, whom I consider a guru. And he's taught us many, many things, particularly about management. He was a very, very senior executive in a large multinational. I think even Shri would know him or know of him. But anyway, he was regarded as a very great negotiator. In industrial circles, they would say if you have this impossible problem of negotiating with labor or anybody, any big negotiation, call in Doc Verghese and he will sort it. You know, so see, Abraham Verghese was his name. But so I asked him one day, sir, how do you do it? What is the secret? And he was sitting in his office and he had this huge table. He was deputy chairman of Brookboard at that time. And he had this huge table. And at one end, I don't remember now whether it was Plato or Socrates. I thought it was Socrates. There was a small statue of Plato, right? There was a small statue of Plato.
No, Rajima, yes, you want to come in just to clarify that because there's wants clarity on who it was.
I think it was Goliath, Guruji.
No. It was Plato on one side, and on the other side was David. On the other end of the table was David. So he just smiled at me and he said exactly what you said, you know, in the lecture today. He says, the reason for my success as a negotiator is that when reason fails, I turn to faith. So, you know, Plato, in the tradition later on of Descartes and all, was a rationalist. Socrates also was partly a rationalist. And the other side was David, who had this no equipment. He had nothing with him. And yet he took on Goliath. All that he had is his slingshot and his faith. So he says so it is that humbling thing which he taught us, you know, where you realize that you don't know, you don't have the equipment, and therefore you surrender. You know, in one way, it is to say the loss of ego or the crushing of ego. And that is when you start succeeding and you start learning. That is what was the incident which I referred to.
Yeah. See, what is so interesting, it's nothing to be blown away with, but great thinkers, successful people who are wise in their own field of work or industry are able to integrate these fundamental principles. And if you have the eyes to see and the capacity to apply it, you will find phenomenal success. You will succeed exceedingly well because you are in sync with what the truth is. And I have never known of this gentleman whom you're referring about, and obviously you said he was known as one of the greatest negotiators. Huh? He was very, very successful, very respected, very looked up to, and the fact that he's able to achieve success, and he was able to, is because of this ability to understand two aspects to life. You know, you just can't penetrate through intellection, then you have to surrender through devotion. In fact, we are also given this analogy, you know, when you have to cut through let's say if you have got a solid steel rod, and if you have to cut through it, and if I give you a sharp saw, and you start using the saw to cut it, or some blade rather, you know, a sharp blade to cut through it, as you keep putting in the effort to keep cutting it, a time would come, the sheer friction and the resistance provided by the thick iron rod, the friction, the blade gets so heated up, it'll give way, it'll snap, it'll break, isn't it? So in order to make the effort effortless and effective, you're given a lubricant, some kind of a grease or oil. And the combination of the oil or the grease and the sharpness of the saw or the tool helps you to cut through that rod, that steel rod. So the steel rod is that ignorance, the sharp saw is the intellect, and that few drops of water is that devotion. So you need that oil of devotion, you need the sharpness of the intellect to cut through that ignorance of steel. Oil alone cannot do it. Reasoning alone cannot do it. Saw alone cannot do it. You need to integrate your head and heart. But what is evident in life is the absence of the intellectual wisdom, the intellectual application. This knowledge aspect is lacking in the world today. The intellect is not present. Is as we all understand, the intellect is dwarfed by the overwhelming presence of the mind, emotions, and his desires. Here also we're saying, when you say bring in the mind, you need to bring in the element of faith, not the element of what is the opposite of faith, Harish?
Hariam Guruji.
Yes, sir.
The opposite of faith is lack of belief or lack of trust.
Not the literal, I'm asking. So again, come back to the context. You constantly have worry. The verse starts, what is worry over your wife and wealth? Or distracted one, you're distracted. Why? You're not able to think of the higher, believe in the higher, have faith in the higher. So you have taken your own, what are you doing? You're constantly running behind acquisition enjoyment, worrying over your unnecessary things. So once you have faith, there's no more of these worries, isn't it? So in that context, I'm asking, what is the opposite of faith? When you don't have this faith, what happens?
When we don't have this faith, then we just go in circles in the world of constant agitation.
You're right. I'm trying to ask this question in the context of, I said, the mind has this positive emotions, but mind also has, I said, your mind dwarfs the intellect. I said that statement and then I came to this. Just to keep you all in line of what I'm saying. The mind dwarfs the intellect. The mind is, it is the mind that has this element of faith, devotion, and surrender, isn't it? But you need to tap that element of the mind. But when you don't tap that element of the mind, what do you fall a prey to? That's when I asked, what is the opposite of faith? It's not the literal opposite, it's the philosophical opposite. Are you able to think along with me, Harish?
Not quite.
Okay, no issues. Just bear with it, we'll get the answer.
Yeah.
A few people have said that there's doubt in everything. Faith leads to the calmness of mind, surrender, constantly agitated, depression. No faith is agitation, anxiety, worry, ego that I am doing it. Sirishi says chaos, arrogance, ego. Not wrong. You all are not wrong. Mistrust. What is that? Literally what happens when you have no faith? Confusion. From depression, you have gone to confusion, Padminima. What happens? Is there not the ordainer? You know, Ramatirtha, when he went to United States, Swami Ramatirtha, he died at the age of 32. And he lectured basically in United States and in Japan. Those years he went. And when he addressed the Americans those days, he said, he used to start off his lectures by saying, My dear brothers and sisters, in the form of self, he says, it used to be a roaring reaction just to the opening remark. My dear brothers and sisters, in the, an unknown man walking into the land mesmerized them with his wisdom. And he used to say, trust your own self, not the mighty dollar, he said. Do you have faith in the dollars that you are banking on, or you have faith and trust in your own self? Do you believe in that providence that they will provide and pave way for me, or is it in the... We all will do little charity. We all will do with when you're enough earned, when you've amassed enough, when you've acquired enough, then you'll say, let me do little give back to the society. We talk of giving back because we have made enough, and you have no energy to run behind anything more, then you might want to give back. With nothing in your pocket, with nothing there to provide you, with no roof over your head, would you sacrifice your life believing that there's a providence that will take care of me? It's that spirit, that undoubted faith. That's why I said, believe in your own self, not the mighty dollar. Not that you should not have dollars and cents, but you can have it, yet it is nothing. So the opposite of having no faith in that providence is to, you have surrendered to your own selfish desires and expectations. Your life will be constantly riding on wants and desires. You want more and more and more, believing the more I have, the more secure I will be. That's why he's saying, what is your worry over acquisition enjoyment? Why is everybody acquiring? RPG, why everybody wants more? And there's nothing wrong. Shastras are not saying anything wrong. But why does one want to acquire more than what he has?
Because they believe that that's the answer.
To what?
To the void, to the piece that's missing within me. They believe that acquisition, that enjoyment, that external pursuit will fill that void.
Absolutely. And is there any truth in it?
I've not found it thus far.
You think you'll find it?
I stopped looking, by the way. I stopped looking. So I'm not.
Very smart answer. No, undoubtedly. I don't believe one who has this, who has woken up to this truth would ever. You may go ahead and do what you need, but you will not search where it isn't it? You know it's not there. You can go and increase your, many people define their wealth with the number of lockers they have. Because you are not able to store all your wealth, hide them in one locker. You say, I have 5, I have 10, I have this, I have that, I have this many bank account, I have that one. That's how you're doing. Go ahead. You believe that's what is going to give you peace and security in life. Carry on. Childishness is your intellect, if you think that way. So primarily everybody is acquiring only to find that inner security and wealth. And in fact, there's a saying, Ramatirtha says so beautifully, iron and gold are good for buying iron and gold. That's all. With iron and gold, you can't trade in iron and gold for anything other than that. And what you're seeking is happiness, countering mental insecurity. You cannot get that. It cannot offset it. With iron and gold, you can buy whatever iron and gold can give you. That's all you can buy with. But you can't buy peace of mind. You can't buy happiness. It cannot settle your worries. And your worry is because you have no faith in the ordainer. You don't believe in the ordainer. You have not surrendered to the ordainer. So therefore, the opposite of faith is you are riding on your own selfish desires, expectations, attachments, which causes worries and anxieties. Put them aside for a while and just surrender to a cause. Believe in that factor, a greater factor. Continue to do, as Vanitama said, you do your little part, I do my part, and then leave the rest. I don't have to worry constantly. What's going to happen? Law will take care. Intellectually, you see the law of causation comes in. Devotionally, you understand there is that providence who provides for everything. Inject these two and carry on doing your part, your little part, in the most humble way. Life is very, very enriching. It's so wholesome. You're very grateful, you're very thankful to what life is. That's the healthy state. Spiritual healthy state is to be ever thankful and grateful. You become an embodiment of joy. You're not seeking joy. It's like a child becomes an embodiment of joy. You're not running behind joys and happiness. You become the embodiment of joy yourself. And everything thereafter you do is full of fun and frolic. The most laborious work is no work at all. It's just fun. It's just joy to live. And then he says, the second half of the verse, Trijagati sajjana sanghati reka bhavati bhavarnava tarane nauka. He says, in the three worlds, whatever the three worlds is, figure out, whatever three worlds. In the three worlds, we'll come back to it perhaps next week again. Just a brief mention of it. In the three worlds, with the association of the good alone, can serve you as a boat to cross the sea of existence. Hirenji, if I can ask you, why is he saying, what is the importance of satsang, sir, in the context of all what we discussed today? I know I've been watching, you've been very alert and attentive. So happy to see you, sir.
Thank you.
But can you sum it up? Why is the text saying that you need to associate with the good in all the worlds? Means in every walk of life, in every experience, you must have satsang. For what? Why do you need to seek the company of the wise?
Keep your mind alive with the discussions that we are having. I mean, today's session was great. I just must say that. Very clear. And to keep that, if we do not keep this satsang, there is a lot of possibility that we stray.
Yep.
Right? To keep ourselves embedded with the higher level of our mindset, attitude, satsang is very important.
Very important. Very well said. Very well said. In fact, it was so true what you said, sir. The necessity, the need we all have to keep the company of the good, the satsang, is to ensure that we are reminded of the ordainer. We are reminded and attuned that there is an ordainer. Rise beyond your little self and do your part in faith, in belief that there is this ordainer. So satsang is that which reminds you of a totality. There's a force, there's a providence. And imagine just getting to your work, Reddy Garu, imagine beginning your work and right through the day you have that faith in that providence, undoubtedly that it will provide and take care of me. So who took care of us when we were in the mother's womb, sir? Who took care of us? Who takes care of us when we're in sleep? Let's say we get cut. Who takes care of it? If the blood doesn't clot, if we doesn't clot, we'll be bleeding to death, isn't it? We can die not knowing what happened in sleep. So who takes care of that? Who ensures that your breathing goes on even when you're not conscious of it? Who ensures it? Millions, quadrillions, countless things are happening because of the providence. We don't have faith in that providence if you don't surrender to it. You doubt that providence if you don't surrender. So satsang triggers that thought process, ensures that process. And he compares the satsang to be like the boat, the metaphor of the boat. It's a very beautiful metaphor. I think we'll come back to it. When we come back, I will just touch on that and we'll take it forward. All right.